Haha!
Hello.
Sweet! Hello! Welcome to Town Hall for February 2022 for Concrete CMS. Wow, 2022.
It's
Here
flying
we are.
by.
It's going by fast. I'm Franz. This is Andy. Recently bespeckled. Andrew
Yes.
Rambler.
Plus 10% to intelligence. Probably not.
Works
Probably
for me,
not.
man. I bust these out in meetings all the time. We're like, well, as I think about it, and I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. He's got the glasses out. Welcome to the Town Hall. This is where we check in on things that are happening with Concrete CMS as a whole and from the community in particular. Lots of news and kind of docs updates today to go through, so I'm going to jump right into it. Since we talked last, some pretty big stuff. We released 9.02.
Yes.
No huge new features, but lots of cleanup, including lots of PHP 8 stuff that worked before but wasn't particularly graceful, would throw errors. They were just like, oh, just turn those off. So now I think a lot of that is cleaned up, thanks in no small part to our good friends in Japan. What else you got in there you want to talk about, Andy?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff. Many bug fixes. Some of them are somewhat glaring, like just inability to link from some of the new blocks that we had. Just lots of new things that you don't necessarily see when you're migrating old sites or when you're setting up sample content, but when it actually comes time to use the new features in a production way, they become pretty obvious pretty quickly. So lots and lots of improvements there. Definitely recommend anyone who's running version 9. You would be remiss if you didn't install that. Oh, and also a lot of the new components we added in version 9 weren't very well localized in version 9 when we released it. So Adi did a lot of work in 9.02 to make the new JavaScript components work with new languages or different languages and stuff like that. So shout out to him as well, and definitely check it out.
Nice. Good job. Thanks for getting that out, and thanks for all the help in cleaning up that went into that. Let's see. What is next on news? Some new documentation here that we're going to jump through a bunch of this stuff here. Let me see. How do I share my screen? How about I try like this one? Heyo! Okay. Let's see. Right off the bat, we did do a push to the community site. Yeah. Stuff happens. It feels slow, but it definitely gets done. Did a push to the community stack. Sadly, no huge features that everyone's going to be super excited about. Lots of cleanup that you probably don't care about, but we do, paying off code debt from the last decade of running this stuff. So, making our way to deprecating some old servers and fixing this and that, and little stuff like making capture work better. But one thing that is just night and day better is this page, system requirements and kind of what which PHP versions we support and don't. Like, this stuff existed, but it was pretty impossible to read because it was just like it's all written in Markdown. It's just basic table formatting. So this page looks so much better now. I think that we might be applying this style to some other tables in terms of which versions we're supporting and that kind of thing. But that's very nice. Thank you, Andy, for banging that one out. Also, put some content together on configuration best practices. So I've been hearing from CIOs at larger companies, hey, we're going to run this internally. Like, exactly how do you guys do it again? Came out of our partner meetings as well. Like, hey, what are some of the best practices around setting Concrete up properly? So here you go. There's a taken from a checklist that we use before we go live with something. So sharing some of the info. And thought it would be good to point out that this is very much inspired by this third-party blog post by Noor, I believe, to his blog. 8 easy ways to harden your Concrete site right now. Not later. Do it now. No code involved. Cheers. But yeah, some gold here as well. Kat says I should put the URLs on the stream as I'm doing this. I have no idea how I would pull that off at the same. I don't know. There's got to be a way. What if I do like a comment or something? If I take this in
Feels
here,
like that
there.
Requires a Corvin level
Yeah,
understanding of this software.
DJ trying to actually Hold on a second, and then if I hit show, boom, right there. So
Oh man.
sure, that's easy to rekey. Anyways, very cool blog post there, long. Wanted to plug that for you, North. Thank you for writing that stuff.
Nice.
You can find this stuff in our developer docs underneath introduction. Forging right along through more news. Spent a lot of time, I should say, Andy spent a lot of time documenting theme stuff. So, I don't know, Andy, do you want to go through? I've got all these queued up.
Yeah, sure. I have them too, but you've got them. You're sharing them already, so that's good. Yeah, so this first one is, people have been asking for this since we launched, which is totally understandable. This is a long dive into Bedrock and how to build a new theme based on it. It's kind of important that you do build a new theme because the way Bedrock works is it's sort of the ground up foundation of a theme. And it's really no different than building on Bootstrap with some additions in there, and it should become clear as you get into it. But one thing that you kind of want to make sure you do is if you scroll back up a little bit, Franz, there's all those nav items on the right. It isn't necessarily obvious that those are part of this thing, but it's introduction to Bedrock, create and install a basic empty theme, setup, development environment, etc. Those are all part of this new documentation. We should probably, there's probably some easy navigational wins we can make here in terms of making the nav stand out a bit more. Because there's no table of contents here, so you might just go to this page and be like, well, that's cool, but this is just like the beginning. So it's all this stuff, and it basically goes into how to build a completely new theme based off of Bedrock. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is, following on all of that stuff, is customizing Bedrock with Sas Overrides. All of these pieces of documentation work with the same theme, which is now available on GitHub. It's very, very simple. It's not pretty, but it should make it clear how to work with it. And if you go through all this documentation in this order, you'll kind of start from nothing, and you'll end up with a theme that's customizable, that's built on Bedrock, that uses Sas. All this good stuff. So the customizing Bedrock with Sas goes into how to set up your own variables in your theme and make them trickle out to all of your different includes. And then if you go to the next one, which is add custom feature support to your Bedrock theme, we got a lot of requests for this as well. We added, it's further down underneath. It also is probably one of those tabs as well.
Got it. So many pages, Andy.
I know, there's a lot. We got a lot of questions on this new feature in Concrete version 9, which is aptly and confusingly named features. And it's not about concrete features, it's about what your theme does. And so basically we go into deep detail in here about what this means. And hopefully it will help people who have questions about it. But in general, what it is referring to is there's kind of this ability to make to add these rich elements into your themes, like image sliders, galleries, light boxes. And in the past, we just kind of left that up to the core blocks to handle. And so, image slider had its own weird little JavaScript. Light boxes had their own JavaScript. And so if you wanted to swap that stuff out, you could, but there was no real unification behind the scenes. It was kind of difficult to work with. And so with the advent of concrete features, you can kind of say, hey, my theme supports rich imagery. My theme supports video, so you don't need to load up the core sort of fallback stuff for that. I'm taking care of that. I'm making sure it looks good. And it goes into a deep explanation of all that new stuff, as well as how to make your theme support it, and go into a pretty big demonstration in there. So for example, adding a parallax effect to the hero image block, adding the owl carousel third-party JavaScript library instead of our image slider JavaScript, without having to worry about it colliding with a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in there. And then the next one is creating custom.
Still catching up, homie. Okay,
yeah, no, there's a lot. All right. Yeah.
No, you forge ahead. Adding documentation to your theme. Nope, we're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet.
Okay,
creating. Yeah, we're getting there. There's lots. It's called creating custom theme skins.
Got it.
So this goes, another new feature we added in version 9 is theme skins. And so the idea is that themes are their own kind of thing. They might include JavaScript and probably do include JavaScript as well as just tons of different CSS. But you could also have sort of different color variations, which are lighter weight than a whole theme. So you wouldn't necessarily install 6 different themes if you wanted to have one that was, a light gray permutation of a theme versus a, green or dark blue or whatever. Themes can now ship different skins. And this came out of real world use cases where we've built sites for clients where we have a single theme that's shared across different sites. But it's kind of nice to be able, they want different permutations of it. So maybe a different overall color palette, but the underlying CSS is generally the same. And so that's what theme skins are. And we ship with some theme skins in Atomic. There's just 2. But this goes through how to build those. It uses Bedrock to start. I know this is. I went deep with this stuff. So I was like, well, Bedrock, that's the Flintstones, right? It doesn't matter. People are like, what the heck are the Flintstones? Who's this old guy? Anyway, so you don't need Bedrock to actually build theme skins, but we kind of start from a Bedrock first perspective just because that's how all this documentation is progressing. So hopefully this makes it clear how to actually support that stuff as you go through. Whew. Yeah, I know there's lots. I'll give you guys something to read. Let's do the next tab. I think you have documentation up in your next tab, probably.
Sure
yeah.
Do.
So in version 9, we've also added theme documentation. This came out of a very real. We were building this stuff bespoke for clients, trying to kind of every time we build a site for clients. There eventually comes a point in the site's life cycle where we're like, can we just get a series of pages where we add a bunch of blocks to those pages so that we can ensure that as we change the theme, we don't accidentally regress, something else, make the type, all the different headings look wrong or the line height's wrong or the image slider doesn't work anymore because we changed a bunch of stuff. And so that's what theme documentation is. It's a special spot in your theme that doesn't bleed out into the main site's content. But gives you a spot to, install documentation with your theme as well as make it custom for clients if you need to do that kind of stuff. And this goes deeply into how you can add that stuff to your own themes.
Mm-hmm. It's really a style guide that I can look at and be like, yep, here's everything I can use, and it still looks good.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
And then finally, we go into how to make your theme customizable in version 9. The general approach is still the same as in version 8 and below. We have a styles XML file that defines different styles that we can do. We improved a lot of that in version 9. We got rid of a lot of kind of weird limitations that we had before that didn't really work with modern Bootstrap, or at least not in a very elegant way. So there's a bit that's different, and of course, since we're supporting Sas as well as less and theme skins, there's a lot. It's pretty much rewritten from the ground up, but the general approach is the same, and this should walk you through that entire process of making that new theme customizable.
Nice. Woo!
Yeah,
Good
there's
job.
a lot there. So I think we posted it in the forums as well as in some other spots.
Yeah, and I imagine there will be plenty of questions, so we will keep a active eye to those forum threads to if you guys are finding holes. I'm sure there's some spots where we can flush it out some more. So yeah, take some time, read through this, and let us know in the forums if that helps or what else you need. Man, got more tabs open than my wife. Chrome's gonna kill my computer. Let's see, what else are we talking about? That's a lot of news. Last thing in the news, I wanted to shout out Bloody Iron. Over here on this third-party site, Tag Merge, someone was asking recommendations for stuff to add to their cool open-source alternative stack, and they showed up with Concrete, which is great. Hey, didn't know about this. CMS will add it for sure. Added, thank you. You're welcome. That's awesome.
That is great to see.
Might not have taken a long time for Bloody Iron, but it really helps us. So appreciate you guys when you're out there helping with getting the word out for Concrete, because of course more people that use it, more people we can help, more work that is out there for everybody, and rising tide lifts all boats. We have any more news?
I think that that is the end of our news.
That'll do it. There we go. Let's see. All right, let us stop sharing my screen. Boom. Just back to us. Awesome. It is time to move into the karma section of our town hall. Concrete's an open source project, and it is bigger than any one of us, and we're really appreciative of that. We do have badges and karma points and various mechanisms for people who are contributing, getting notoriety and props. But we also like to shout out folks who have done some stuff in between the last town hall and this. So, Andy, do you want to go through the folks that have submitted code or GitHub issues or documentation in the last little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with the GitHub pull requests themselves. Thanks to lots of community members for helping getting 902 tested and out the door. There's a lot of fixes in there, so check out the full release notes. The code, thank you to M. Nakale, Pukachu, Deke87, Hishi, John the Fish, Catalysis, and M. Locati. All of these people help make 902 a lot better. And then lots of GitHub issues submitted as well lately from the fine folks like Dan Klassen, Deke87, Linuxoid, Wordish, Peter Naglia, Heflamy, Nikolai Nikolajevich, Pukachu, Masuva, WebPresso CH, Jack Vanson, Abrechts, Mel, C5, Jotomi Akiyama, Katsuno, Martin Kuba, Vidal, M. Nakale, Pine Creative Labs, Hishi, Nick Rattering, AOL Rogi, Catalysis, Morier, CCM and Lil, Bloody Iron, Rude Zuderlicht, and John the Fish. Thank you all so much. And finally, new documentation coming from fine folks like Adrian Michel, VRIIC, Lisa N, and Ramon Latan. Thank you all for all of that hard work.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Andy, for reading those. I had the challenge of doing that on my own last month, and those are a lot of complicated handles. So, good job, and thank you everybody for contributing. It really is. I always say it every month, but comes from the heart. It is pretty cool to be part of such a big family. So thanks for sticking with us and making Concrete great. Okay, we now do the Golden Baton. So started this maybe almost a year ago. I don't know, at least 6 or 9 months ago. Picked a community leader that has just really gone above and beyond over the years. Gave them the Golden Baton badge and also $250 marketplace credit and our heartfelt and eternal gratitude, and said, hey, this is cool, pass it on to somebody else. It's a baton, you pass it on to somebody else. So we've gone through lots of folks, and last month it was Masuva, Ryan, who was given the baton, and I am going to show the video from Ryan of who gets it this month, I think.
Hi everyone, this is Ryan from Masuva here. First of all, thank you to Wayne for his nomination last month. It was really fun to receive, and I've had some really good conversations with Wayne on Slack. It's also been great to see him build his business and his branding of his business over the years. It's been quite inspirational, so thanks to Wayne. Just a quick background. My wife and I have been running Masuva for 11 years now. And we started in a small sleepy town in Australia. And we actually had people say, you won't be able to make that work or won't make enough money. But we're still here 11 years later, and we're still working on all sorts of crazy and weird projects and having a great time. We even moved to the UK about 3 years ago. We moved the business and turned it into a company, and we're having a great time with it. So we attribute a lot of that success to the community and the fact that we've made lots of contacts through the forums and just the fact that we've been involved with Concrete. It's been fantastic. We've been really happy to use it as a product over many years. I think it's probably 10 years we've been using it. It just suits our development really well. And in particular allows us to manage change that clients put through. Over the years, we've got websites that are running for years, and we're able to evolve those sites into what they need over time. So So in terms of passing the baton on, I've been thinking about this a bit, and there's lots of names that have come to mind, and there's many people that could easily pass the baton on to, but I did want to pick someone who is a longer term community member, and I wanted to pass it on to Takuro, aka Hissy. His contributions, especially to core, are so consistent. Lots of bug fixes, lots of contributions, and they're from 2013 all the way up to now. And it's that longer term commitment to contributing that I really wanted to recognise. I also understand that Takuru is the CEO of Macro Digital, previously known as Concrete 5 Japan. My impression of that business, that company, is that it's been going great and it's got lots of people involved. Very impressive. So congratulations on that front as well, that you're leading a company of that size. So thanks everyone. Please feel free to reach out if there's any discussion, community store, add-ons, beer, I don't really care. I really enjoy talking to people in the community. Thanks everyone, and have a great 2022. Cheers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Great. Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, Hishi has been around forever and ever, and it's second, just kind of a quiet pillar of getting things done. Great to have him in the community. Great to have his contributions. And you're right, Katz and Hishi over there in Japan with Derek are doing amazing stuff with concrete building, really apps and intranets and kind of functional websites for large companies. That I think really represents the future market for concrete very well. Hey, this isn't just brochureware. You can build powerful, secure, complicated things that help your business run more smoothly, and they are being very successful with that. So, agreed. Nothing but respect and gratitude for everything they're doing, and thanks. Let's see what is next. I think next we jump into the PRB. We're gonna see new stuff that's been happening in the PRB.
Nice.
And then we're going to go directly into Q&A. We're going to try to keep these town halls not an hour long. And and I will also post the PRB video as a separate video to YouTube. I know that came up after last month. Says, hey, can this be standalone as well? But I do want to just take a few moments to see what has been going on in the marketplace.
Well, in this month's news we have maps, page lists and community store payment methods to show you. All are version 9 compatible. Our first maps add-on is Free Here Map by Linuxoid. Here Map is an alternative to Google, does location, mapping and all that sort of stuff. This add-on provides a few additional features beyond a simple equivalence to the core block, with a highly configurable pop-up info panel and geolocation of your map entry point. The add-on is version 9 only, and I think it says in the title it's free. Our second map add-on is Jalonia Map from Concrete Japan. This is also free, and Jalonia is currently a Japan-only mapping service. It comes with some alternate map themes, such as the dark theme here, and addition to the map pin pop-up, the map rotation and pitch can be configured, so you can create a bit of an artificial perspective for a location. Jalonia Map is compatible with version 8 and version 9. Now on to Enlil search templates. This is a collection of templates for the core search block to easily show search input only and results only views for the block. Enlil started out with the aim to update some templates I originally released for version 5.6, but he gets all the credit here for doing a lot of new development work to get this compatible across version 8 and 9, as well as updating for the latest coding guidelines. As well as search input only and results templates, Enlil has added templates for automatically focusing the search input and for passing search parameters onto page lists. Which brings us nicely on to Macro Advanced Page List. This is another add-on by Concrete 5 Japan, and it provides a lot more list filtering and sorting options than standard page list, while it remains compatible with all the page list sorting and filtering associated blocks. It also provides, if we have a look at a rather busy screenshot here, a couple of extra inputs. There's a keyword search input, and here you can see it highlighting a few keywords or characters. Highlighting is entirely optional, and it also has a year filter block that works with it, so could be good for blog listings. The price is $25, and this is compatible with version 9 and version 8. The review in the PRB was by Enlil. Well, that's it from me. Over to Noor for the rest of this month's add-ons.
Thank you, John. So first we have Tinkoff Bank Payment for Community Store, so payment processor package by developer Linuxoid. This is exclusively for Tinkoff processor, so it's Russian only, and it will only accept rubles. So your prices on your website have to be set in that currency. It is an off-site payment processor, so buyers will be taken to the system's website where you can fill their credit card information and everything, and then taken back to the main websites when it's finished. The package is only for Concrete 9, and it's free. Second, we have John the Fish Universal Content Pooler Elements, which is an add-on to the Universal Content Pooler package. For those of you who don't know it, UCP, as we call it, is a package that allows you to pool content from pretty much anywhere, transform that content in many different ways, and then display it in also many different ways. So this new package, this Universal Content Pooler Elements package, adds another way to display the data using concrete elements, so they are easy to design and to style. And the package will provide your element with the data you modified, with other variables if you need them, and then you can display them any way you want. The package is Concrete 9 ready, and it costs only $15. And as usual with John the Fish packages, you can get it free if you get the main Universal Content Pooler package. And that's it for me. Thank you. Have a great rest of your month. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, great to have that update. See the cool stuff coming in. Nice to see all of it being version 9 compatible. Good work.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, super duper. Okay. Let's see. Got some questions that have been coming in. Got some questions in the forum. So we'll start with the forum stuff, and I think we can blast through a lot of that. And then if you have more questions, add them to the stream. And I will jump over to Slack as well and see if Mike has collected anything. And then we will call it a day here. So let's see if I add this to the stream. So we made this forum post last month per suggestion. We'll do the same thing after this one. Just a good spot to collect questions as we go. And I think I can probably blast through a lot of these quickly. And then Andy, why don't you jump in if there's something that you want to add. So Nora asks, will you please document Atomic with X? And because it's Lorem Ipsum, I feel like we've answered that one today. Quite a bit of theme documentation, unless...
Yeah, I'm a little confused by... I mean, I'm not confused by the general question, because we have... It's confusing given the naming of all this stuff. We do have the new theme documentation section or feature in Concrete that does ship with Atomic that you can get at through your own site to see all your different styles, like the style guide. That we have added documentation for how to support that in your own themes. So that does have that. There is explanation on how to do that. I'm a little confused maybe because right now it's Lorem Ipsum. Just not entirely clear on what that is, just because to be clear, the theme documentation that's part of the atomic documentation section that ships with Concrete, that will always be lorem ipsum because it's not. It's a style guide.
The style guide. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's clearer after the first part of this.
So
that's supposed to be example content.
Yeah, that's example content because not all of it's lorem ipsum. A lot of it explains that, these are your containers that you can add to a page, but the actual content inside it when it gets to the block type section, or the containers that are meant to show this is the left and the right container, that those will never have real content in them because they only exist to show off what the styles are supposed to look like. So just wanted to make that clear. A lot of that stuff that functions as a style guide is going to continue holding lorem ipsum content because that's what it's for. But I could see how that might be confusing if you're expecting it to all detail something about atomic. So the documentation section is interesting. It's half explaining how to use different elements. Like if you add custom blocks to a site, you might put a page in there saying, here, this is how to use this custom image slider that we added, and you might deck that whole page out with explanation for a client to read through. But then the other half of that documentation is more visual. It's more, this is what the image slider actually looks like when you add it to a page. This is what this container looks like. This is what the 6 different heading styles that we've shipped with look like. So it kind of, there's a little bit of, it tries to solve 2 problems. So hopefully that explains a little bit more about the purpose of what that's for.
Yeah, it does to me. And I can absolutely see a designer wanting to add best practices to that section. So it's not really just like a literal, hey, we just threw H1 through 7 on there. Like you could also be like, don't stack images this way, stack them that way, and how to kind of stay on brand. So
yeah, or like make sure you add this after this so that you get the right spacing between them. Just the kind of stuff we've had to do in the past.
So can it be used for anything or only themes? I think we're talking like, are we going to add a documentation to tab or some type of thing to blocks as well? Like.
Right now, that section is purely theme specific. It installs through the theme. It goes into a special node in the sitemap that's called theme documentation. It's sort of married to the theme, so it shows up in the little cog that's part of the theme. Nothing is force. You can edit it through the CMS, so you can add anything you want to it. If you go to the sitemap and show system pages, a node that says theme documentation will show up. I could potentially see us renaming that so it's a little bit more generalized, but right now it's really more about theme specific documentation and showing different content elements within a particular theme, because that's something that I don't want to lose here. It's not really about like, how do I make the calendar work in the dashboard? This is like specifically meant to show different pieces of content and explain how to use that content within the context of a specific theme.
Yeah. If you were going to set up visual regression testing, pointing it to that section would be a smart move, right? Because if you get to the end of these projects and you're kind of chasing these CSS things, and you're like, oh, as you're dealing with the last responsive bit, and you change it here and then it moves there, and it just feels like you're wrestling a bowl of Jello. That's what this section is for. Okay. Katz is asking for a Japanese partner, a bunch of Japanese stuff. And that is something about what I'm using. No, it got more in-depth version 9, such as container, Bootstrap 5, etc. How do we implement Bootstrap 5 in jQuery? I think you're talking like that, the feature section.
Yeah, that definitely check out the Bedrock docs that I have that goes into how jQuery. That will just be, if you opt into Bedrock, jQuery will be installed automatically, or will be added to your header automatically. Otherwise, just make sure you require it in your theme just the same way we have for a long time. The second question, yes, I can't remember if we added this in version 9 or if we added it in version 8 at some point. I think it was in version 8 because we needed it for multi-site. But it's actually turned out to be one of the most obvious and best small additions we've added in a long time. So a bit of a history lesson. Concrete ships with blocks with view templates in them in the core, and any theme that you add will use that view template. You always could fork that and add it to the application directory or your overrides directory if you're an old school concrete user. And then you could also, and so that would override the core version. And that's what we had for a long time. We let you ship custom templates within a package. And so you could, if you knew enough to go into the CMS and use a custom template, you could load a custom template from any package. But within one of the recent versions, we have added the ability to specify block view templates at the theme level that override the core. So if you look in Atomic, it's a good example. There's a half dozen block view templates that override the ones that are in the core. And so that is really nice because what it lets you do is the core makes sure that the blocks are not just straight up broken. So I will always know that if I add an image slider, it might look a little weird because it's got its own bespoke styles. It's going to work on whatever theme it uses, unless there's some kind of weird collision. But if you install Atomic or any other theme that has custom view templates, they can take over the core view templates and use their own. And the level of precedence there is if you have something in the application blocks directory, it will always use that. That is the last thing that is looked at. So that is the one that takes the absolute most precedence. I actually brought this up here. So then if you, at that point, if you have a block in your theme that exists, it will use that. And then if you have, if the block exists that's part of a package, it will use the one that's in the packages directory. And then after that, if there is a corresponding custom template that's being used in any package, it will use that. And then finally, the concrete directory is used after that. So there's about 4 or 5 locations that are checked as part of this process, hopefully in a way that makes it pretty flexible. But yeah, definitely if you're building themes, if you're building a custom theme and the core view template isn't doing what you want, definitely explore putting a custom view template for the core block in your theme, as opposed to a lot of themes will instead just kind of ship with their own versions. Like we've got our own custom image slider, like, we've got a Medina theme image slider. Like unless you're adding if you're adding new functionality to it, you can definitely, that's what the block types are for. But if you're really just adding that theme because you couldn't think of a good way to fork it to work nicely with your theme, use a custom view for that block type in your theme.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. This were kind of housekeeping. Like marketplace pick should just be an individual video. Yeah, I'll post it as a separate video to YouTube, so people can just stay up to date with what's on the new marketplace stuff. I do like having a bit of that here in the town hall, just because it's part of the news. So I'll keep that in there, cats. But I did take the underlying message and I skipped the show and tell of let's go deep on one thing because time is a limited commodity and we appreciate yours. So trying to make it a little bit faster. Can I put a link in the video so people can go to the add-on page, meet and watch the live? I don't know. I'll give it a try. I don't see how that's going to link. So maybe you know something about StreamYard that I don't know. We probably should go through and pull a bunch of links out and put that in the description of the YouTube video afterwards.
That's a smart thing to do for sure.
That's what you're asking for. Yeah, I'll make Mike do that and he'll really love me for it. Yeah, we'll post the video separately. Got it. This is a good one.
Oh yeah.
Renaming stuff. So, most of you should probably know that we started as Concrete CMS ages ago. When we went open source, we called it Concrete 5 because it had been the 5th major rebuild since we had started working. That story started to fall flat after years and years and years. So this last summer, we rebranded back to Concrete CMS, and everything looks glorious and super grown up now. Sadly, we have yet to change the name of the GitHub repository because that is, it's just so fundamental that it's an easy one to be like, yeah, we'll do that later.
Not today.
Not today. There's also Composer and Packagist, and I'm sure half a dozen other things that you could, we definitely don't want to just change that out from people and see their DevOps plans fall apart. So Kat's quite wisely was like, yo, what's the plan? Because, last 10% does count. And we spent some time, and Andy spent some time thinking about that and has posted to the forum what the plan actually is. So again, I will post this completely meaningless link here as a comment. That's where it is. If you want to rekey that, we'll stick it down in the description. Please take a look through this. If you do anything that is kind of automatic DevOps deployment based on, what are we covering here? GitHub, Packagist.
Yeah, any composer install with Concrete, you should check it out. Yeah, I think the next step on this, assuming it looks right generally, is for us internally to figure out a time that works for us to do this, and then to share that time with the community as well. I don't know if it's going to be 2 to 3 months out like Katz wanted, but I mean, it's already been 2 to 3 months since the original question, so that's fair. Yeah, I think at this point we're ready to do it. We just need to block out a significant amount of, or I mean, at least a
Friday at 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more than 15 minutes, unfortunately. So, and then of course, maybe a day or two post change to recognize any fallout and correct as necessary. So
yeah, we will do it at the beginning of a week, so we have a chance of working our way through it. And gosh, I just really want to make sure that people know this is coming. So I'll probably post this to the blog. You'll probably get a little tired of hearing me say this change is coming, but I really do. It hurts every time that we say, hey, we're going to do something, and we just kind of happen because people are asking for it, and then people are like, oh, well, that was abrupt. So trying to be delicate about that. We even told you guys when we were releasing 9.02 before we released 9.02 this last time. I thought that was pretty decent. So doing our best to be a little bit more deliberate with schedule and planning with this stuff. So please check in on this. Poke some holes in Andy's thinking so we can do it gracefully and in a planned fashion. Super duper back to questions. Linuxoid looks like he had a very cold morning in Russia and is displeased with the amount of throughput that is happening to building or fixing community or improving community stuff. I too would like to be doing more stuff on the community stack. We did update the community stack like we said we would last month. Sadly, most of what we did is very much under the hood and probably won't impact you. I know you in particular were experiencing some weird issues with single sign-on. I had them happen to me a couple months ago, and I had an epiphany of, oh, this is why this is so incredibly frustrating. Like every other page load, I have to log back in. No one had experienced that here, and it ended up being something super goofy with our WAF rules, like firewall rules, and some IP address that I got. So I imagine that's what happened to you. I actually learned that Linuxoid is on the eastern side of Russia, not the... I don't know why, but I always assumed that he was, Moscow, that side. But no, he's like on the Indiana Jones side, where like next to Japan, same time zone. So that's... I don't know, neither here nor there, but kind of cool.
Russia's a big country.
So jealous. Yes. Would love to be spending more time on this. I know Evan is prioritizing another push for the coming weeks. I know there's some time on Andy's calendar to optimize the member search. We turned member search off a couple weeks ago because we were woken in the middle of the night with the site going up and down because some spammers were hammering us, and we ended up blocking their IPs, but that always feels a little reactive. Did find that the underlying member search code is not as performant as it should be. So that has made it to our radar as really needs to be readdressed before it goes live. And I know we've got some time to at least look at that this week. I don't know if it'll launch this week, but I do know we will be trying to optimize that code. So I'm sorry. I love you. We're working as hard as we can. I think that we'll try to communicate more and do things or say what we're going to do before we do them. But I'm sure you can appreciate that there's only so much time in the day. And yeah, there will be some documentation. I don't know. I feel like Andy nailed that one.
Yeah, I think that should help a lot.
Sweet. Glenn asks, reinstatement of the CSS.js cache. The CSS and JavaScript cache is used to combine and minimize assets. It was removed. Now it's a proposal enhancement. What's going on? What does it mean? What you doing, Andy?
Yeah, so this is one of those settings that seemed like a good idea at the time, and it's clear that some community members still find it a good idea right now. unfortunately, it's one of those features that whenever we work on a site that's doing something weird, what's one of the first things we do is turn that setting off. So it really exists only to break things, it seems like. The general idea is with blocks that have lots of tiny little JS and CSS files, it's nice to have this on-demand caching that might say, hey, if you've got a half a dozen blocks on your page and there's 8 to 10 to 12 little JS and CSS files, isn't it cool to automatically minify those together and combine them so to minimize HTTP requests? One, I don't know that that's even as important as it used to be, 10 years ago when we started to dream up that feature. I feel like web servers and browsers do a lot better at handling that level of HTTP requests. I could certainly be wrong about that. I'm not opposed to bringing it back. We haven't ripped out the code that uses it. We just kind of turned off the ability to set the setting. It's just kind of it. And so we're still looking at perhaps bringing it back. There, you guys do make some good points in GitHub. I think it's just a matter of circling back on that issue and maybe providing some additional warnings to people when they turn that setting on. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's also one of those things where the more building themes that have all of that JS and CSS sort of bundled into the theme kind of makes that setting obsolete as well. So that's kind of some of the thinking behind it. We haven't lost track of it. It's still sort of in the proposal stage to bring it back for sure.
So it sounds like you're looking for some more background on why this is valuable, because we've certainly identified that it does create challenges when you're dealing with a production site. So
yeah, and I'm sure for the people that it works well for, like I think they're
not saying we don't
right.
It's just it's a knowledge transfer. We just need to know why you care so much.
Yeah.
All right. Questions on? Oh, go ahead.
No, there's good back and forth on that ticket. I want to keep exploring it for sure.
Okay, excellent. Questions on Bedrock. Bedrock workflow ignores marketplace add-ons. Is there any plan to expand Bedrock to provide add-on asset code?
Well, the idea behind Bedrock is to really be sort of theme forward, with the idea that if you build your theme on this, your theme will support the full complement of what Concrete provides, and that's kind of why it exists. So with that in mind, I'm not exactly sure what the Bedrock workflow would add to add-ons, unless what you mean is Bedrock should support themes that are built in the marketplace. And if that's the case, then yeah, Bedrock absolutely should be used to build the themes that you submit to the marketplace. And hopefully the docs that we provided make it clear how one might do that. Yeah.
I feel like the next two questions are solidly in. Those docs probably make it a lot clearer. How does Bedrock work alongside the existing JavaScript and CSS asset system? And can you explain features as listed in Theme PHP? Yeah.
Yeah, so it does work alongside the asset system. It's a bit we cleaned that. The system is still in place and still used throughout Concrete. We just cleaned up a lot of those assets fully. So gone are a lot of the discrete little view CSS files for a given block. Instead, that's sort of bundled into the theme or into the asset fallback stuff. And if you look into that features documentation that I posted, that should make that pretty clear how those things interact and what problems. I spent a fair amount of time trying to identify why that addition was important to me and to us, and the problems that it's trying to solve. And so definitely give that features documentation a read through, and the general Bedrock building documentation a read through. And if you still have questions, definitely post them to the forums. But I hope that will answer a lot of it.
Awesome. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so that is the questions from the forum. This is not turning out to be a shorter video at all. Let's see. All right, let's go into the questions that have been added to the stream. Some of these are from we were showing off docs. You get beaten up on the interface a little bit here. And can we please have next and back added to all the doc pages?
We used to have this. I feel like there's an area on the docs that maybe the new templates don't have, or it's a page type defaults thing that didn't get added to the new page types that we made for reasons unknown to me. You know, when we cleaned up the docs a while ago, and they didn't emerge a lot cleaner, unfortunately.
Perhaps.
So, yeah, I agree. That was always something I liked with it made it clear that we could, go through those sections.
I think that and some page lists on those parent pages would probably go a long way to making it easier to just have a narrative through as opposed to kind of hunting and pecking. This one, it blows me away, but I don't have a strong opinion on it. Everybody wants the navigation on the left and not the right. Here's John back in that.
Make it a user preference.
Choose
your user profile.
I think that's fine. I think if we're going to touch that, in my opinion, equally high value target would be doing something with line height on titles that wrap.
Yes, that navigation is pretty.
That's rough stuff.
It needs some love. Also, I would go to bat for. This always comes up, and it's no fun to build, but the some ability to not just show the entire tree at all times in the nav. Actually, if once you drill into a section, you get just that section's documentation until you hop back out to, once you're in the theme documentation, you shouldn't see, basic concepts. It's like, what, you're good. Like, yeah, you can go back up to
some of that.
Some love
get,
there.
That can get tricky, when you've got kind of different. And now all of a sudden, there's
I don't like building it. I just like
there's
seeing
no
it.
siblings. Well, I just mean like contextually. Sometimes if there aren't as many levels underneath introduction, and now you're hiding parents, it's like, wait a minute, what happened to the nav? So, but definitely like something around like this. I don't know, we just need a wider nav space or less bold.
The line height is definitely needs. It's
like that is janky. We would not do that for a client, so we probably shouldn't do it to all of you.
It's a simple. That should be an actually pretty simple thing.
So yeah, I think a little bit of love on this nav. I'm curious as to why having the nav on the left, where you generally start reading, would make things easier than on the right where it's an afterthought, but I don't really care enough to not do it. I guess it's a pretty simple change. If everybody thinks it's better, let's do it.
Who am I to stand in the way?
Progress? I don't know. I'm just,
No, but I mean, there's a lot of things we could do to this to make it. I think line height, adding next and previous are big wins, even if we didn't move it. And moving it's easy too.
Fine with me. So if you're paying attention, Evan, put that to the top of the sprint list for the next one. All right, here's a good one. Any idea on PHP 8 and version 9 and the errors that I get when I'm running that stuff and how I should feel about that and when I have to stop having feelings about it? I'm paraphrasing, but I think that's the general view on that one.
Yeah, this is tough because it's they reclassified so many errors in a way that make them come up at a higher level that we really are having to clean up a lot of blocks. And you could certainly make the argument that we should have cleaned up some of that sloppier coding in the past. And that's certainly probably true. But if I had to guess, we could certainly continue to clean up the core and have that to a spot where we could heartily recommend PHP 8 for, a version or two down the line. But what happens when you install your first package from the marketplace and your entire site shits the bed? Yeah, I know it's not great. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the timetable is on that. And we're definitely actively merging pull requests that fix PHP 8 issues. I suspect we'll be running PHP 8 for our own local concrete development environments before too long, and that will, dog fooding that will certainly get us to fix the remaining issues in our own code base. But it's going to be bumpy with add-ons going forward with that. And I mean, there are certain practical matters that you can do to get your sites to run smoothly with that, like, hiding errors at a level higher that every dev in GitHub hates, but you might hate less if you suddenly have a site that you've upgraded that no longer runs because you don't have a defined variable before you use it. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think we have a strong timetable on that. I suspect the absolute hard stop would be once PHP 7.4 goes into end of life mode. We can't really. It's going to look pretty bad if we don't have a good. If we don't heartily recommend PHP 8 and beyond at that point. So that's probably what we're looking at.
Yeah, and just for larger context for those of us that are only partially paying attention, we're talking about errors that PHP 8 is turning really around. New features in 8 and kind of styling, and we're not talking about fatal errors that are something that from a performance standpoint you're worried about.
Yeah, PHP 8 basically we've got some sloppy code in there. And by sloppy code I mean like using a variable before it's or looking, using a variable in an if statement before if it's not actually explicitly defined. Old versions of PHP would just silently treat that as null if you, unless you had sort of strict error warnings turned on, which M. Locati was always like, dude, you should turn these on. I'm like, whatever. But he was, that would have been advantageous to clean this up beforehand. But PHP 8 basically reclassified those at a higher level so that our standard error reporting, which says don't report on all these little errors, since they've been moved up a level, they are now reported on as errors, and they do kill the site, or they do kill the execution, even though they don't have to. You could turn off error reporting and your site would run just at that level, and your site would run just fine. So, but we don't want to do that because there might be other errors at that higher level that you do care about. So,
That's right.
yeah, so there are definitely some workarounds if you want to run PHP 8 today to just move the error reporting one notch higher. But in terms of the core, that's not something we really want to do. So we're just kind of in this uncomfortable place of fixing it. So again, this isn't concrete breaking, in a way that it didn't do yesterday, but it's definitely reporting on it as though it were. So yeah, we're working on it.
Something we want to clean up. Not good, not catastrophic. And I think significantly better in 9.02. So
yes,
you should take a look at that if you are looking at 9.01. Next question from Dan. And 8.1 support. I think some dependencies like Laminas cache are locked to 8.0, so this may be more involved. I don't know what this means.
Yeah, I worried that that's one of those bridges that we'll cross when we get to it.
Got it. I think we're doing pretty good. These are all me. I don't know. What are we talking about? Here's John just saying CSS cache issue.
I think we covered that. That's
cool.
Probably the that's probably the GitHub issue that is being debated.
Here's John Steele saying accordions. Banjo. No, I imagine this was in context of documentation, and I do feel more strongly against accordions.
It maybe there's also some active GitHub issue about the accordion block that we added in version 9. We added an accordion block, in case you're aware. We added it for Atomic, and it's nice. I think we've done some fixes for it. I can't suss out exactly what that question is related to.
You can't from the single word in question mark.
But I know that there is some discussion about something in GitHub related to that. So it continues.
Let's see. Ryan says, "Trust me." Like, all right. Well, I like your T-shirt, so probably will. Dan approves of my paraphrasing. PHP version per marketplace entry for the, oh my gosh, how do we do, like, it's one thing to clean up our million lines of code, but what about the additional million from the marketplace? Yeah, possibly, at least sharing that info. I know that we were able to fix an issue with the PRB approval and linter thing as part of our last push, so that stuff definitely is getting ongoing attention, so we could make that an additional denote which PHP versions your add-on has been tested with. Probably a good way to at least kind of motivate people to, okay, I probably don't want to have to leave that box unchecked. Oh my goodness. We are at an hour. I don't know if there's any questions from any other mediums. I think I can quickly switch over here. No, not really. Super cool. All right. We did it. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to... What am I going to do? I'm going to make a new forum post of questions for next month. I'm going to post the PRB section of this video on its own so you don't have to suffer through us jabbering for 45 minutes just to hear what's going on in the PRB. And I'm going to... I don't know. I'm going to get a glass of water before my next meeting. Anybody going once, going twice? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you, and we'll see you in a month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boom. Nope, still hitting buttons.